Happy 420!
Oopsie, the worst rapper alive. Oops. Yeah. Big Mac's back on the mic like oops. Back on the horse, still jumping through hoops. Missing Lincoln Pink, I don't lip sync. Just to be clear, choking isn't my kink, but I do it anyway sometimes, I guess. Gotta laugh now, die later in my times of stress. I'm blessed, feeling good, charged up like a Hadouken.
Mutadzita Banakis, welcome to the Worst Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Jack Lucenay. As always, you guys, this is organic, fan-driven, and to be the worst of the worst, to be the Santino Marella of wrestling podcasts, I need you guys' help out there. So, hey, drop some questions, especially live while we're on the show, and I'll get to as many as I can. And if you guys want to send some ideas for the show, I can tell you special preview. There's going to be a short video dropping from made by request from shout out to Nick Opalewski over on Facebook, found me and requested a special episode, which I'll be dropping tomorrow, a review of old Superstar tape. So that's going to be coming tomorrow. But for today, like I said, shout out 420. If you guys got any questions, hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, we're going to be starting with Monday Night Raw. And for me, this was like a really weird experience because, as you guys all know, if you've been following me at all, I went to Monday Night Raw live in Montreal at the Bell Center, and it was definitely a very unique experience. So for me, it was my first time attending a live WWE show. And right off the bat, there were like a lot of discernible differences I noticed between obviously like the taped television product that we get on a weekly basis and obviously a live show environment. That goes without saying, but it's something that I think is almost too easy to forget. You know, I look at the wrestling journalists out there, especially the old timers like Uncle Dave and Jim Cornette that, you know, maybe haven't been to a WWE show in some time. And yeah, definitely, you know, when they're reporting what they see from an outside perspective, especially what you're seeing on the television product, very different from what's happening in that live arena. I got my tiny little joint here. You're like, well, Jack, what is this tiny little joint that you're smoking on 420 of all days? Don't you worry, guys. This is Bruce Banner hulked up with some Keef. Call this a little Kiefer Sutherland. Smoking on this 24. All right. So first things first, the Bell Center in general, and I tell you guys, this is a great setup. You know, the security was amazing. I was able to go in and out freely pretty much to have my smokes. Like, obviously, you got to go through security and like empty your pockets and stuff, you know, for weapons still, like even in Canada. But for the most part, like, you know, they had a smoking section set up. I got a wristband. Everything was cool. So I was able to get out, get some fresh air, because I'll tell you, it's fucking hot in those arenas. That's something I don't think you really realize until you're there and you're pressed up against a bunch of sweaty wrestling fans. But you're in the moment. You know, it's like being at a concert or anything else. You don't really care. It's such a great experience. And part of that is the live audience really like suspends their disbelief. I think it's, you know, it's actually more difficult than you think to like really fuck over a live audience, especially like when you're talking about lifelong wrestling fans. So the one thing I would say, you know, a lot of people told me, oh, you got to get there early. You got to stay there late. You don't really necessarily need to get there early. Now, if you're in a situation where you're driving, for sure. But like, I took the subway in. You know, I live about 40 minutes north of Montreal. I took a train to the subway. I took the subway to the Bell Center. Got me there in about an hour. I did there and back home for $16. Pretty cheap. Like I said, drops me right off next to the Bell Center. Once you're physically there, like the going through the gates and the showing of the tickets, all of that was actually a relatively painless process. So as long as you're there, they do like the pre-tapings of and this was a weird thing of like they told us we couldn't record, and I'm assuming it's because they were taping Main Event and Speed, and they didn't want those kind of results leaking out online. It's like regardless of whether I tape it or not, I could just tweet out like what happened. But the live experience of the actual Monday Night Raw, it's really weird for two reasons. Obviously, the commercial breaks. A lot of times you'll notice, like, if you stay for a commercial break, because a lot of times I was sneaking out for a smoke. But like a lot of times those commercial breaks, like the wrestlers just like hanging out, standing in the ring, but they'll to kind of almost like try and minimize it, they turn the lights down on the ring. So it's like supposed to be like, oh, like, you can't see them, and then they bring the lights back up. But it is really funny just kind of seeing them hang out, but kind of what they end up doing. And it's an interesting dynamic to see, because obviously it's not something that you see on the television side, but you actually see the wrestlers, especially interacting with a lot of the production crew, for example, cutting jokes, laughing it up. You'll see them interacting with the announcers as well. Obviously, Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. That's one thing I was really observant of too. Like Samantha Irvin, especially, like shout out to her, because she just looks like someone who truly enjoys her job. And that kind of emanates out to the crowd. Like you feel her energy, honestly. Like she's bopping to Ricochet's music when he comes out, doing little, she's cutting it up with the production crew and joking with announcers and wrestlers. It's like a whole, you can see kind of like almost their work dynamic in between the shots. So I thought that was like really interesting. Again, this being my first live experience. And if you've never gone to a live show, definitely I would recommend, because I feel like it changes your perception a lot of what you see on the TV product. And the one recommendation I would make is, and I'm assuming that the merch and food everywhere is bullshit. Bell Center, just like any other place, overpriced. I think I paid $15 for a soda and some popcorn, and then another $6 for water. That's all I got while I was there. I didn't get any merch. The merch was nothing special that I couldn't order on WWE Shop, honestly. They did have one special Sami Zayn shirt that went really fast, but it was like $45 for a t-shirt. I mean, I had this one custom made for $45, and that felt like really expensive, but like I picked the design, I brought it, and like picked like the biggest logo size that they had, and like custom feels a little different than just buying a shirt at a wrestling show for $50. So I didn't spend on merch and food, but it made me glad that I spent up on my ticket, because originally I was actually supposed to be way up like in the cheap seats, and the day of the show I was just looking on Ticketmaster, shout out to them, to kind of see like, hey, do they have a ticket exchange program, something where like maybe I can get cheap seats the day of. And they do have resale tickets. It's like a resale ticket system. So if you're smart, you wait till the day before the day of, you can actually get some really dope ass seats for way cheaper than what they originally go for, or what they should be, technically speaking. So like I ended up getting tickets for in the Bell Center. It's called the Parterre, and there's 3 sections of it. It's Parterre literally means on the floor, and I was 9 rows back, which was like fucking hell yeah. Like even with people in front of me and standing up, like I had a clear view of the ring, of the wrestlers, of the action. The only thing I couldn't see 100%, there were certain times where they'd be like coming down the ramp that I would like lose sight of them for a second, but then like they would pop right back up as they came up the stairs. So it's like no big thing, but that would be the one thing. It's like knowing what I know now, that I didn't spend any additional money while I was there. I would have even spent more money to have the tickets ringside. It is 100% worth being ringside at these shows. So if you can afford it, if that's like, something you can, like, if you're going to save up to go to one of these shows, like that's what I would really recommend. you know, if it's something you just do routinely because you got an arena in your city and you just go and you go to the cheap seats to just have a good time enjoying the environment, I totally get that. If you're making like a trip out of it like I did, where it's like they only come through Montreal so often, the next time they do, promise you I'll get ringside seats. So, and the ambience was great. You know, all the fans. I didn't know anybody. Obviously, went just totally by myself. Interacted with people like obviously just like on a surface level, but like even there was this dad and his kid sitting next to me. You know, we became friendly by the end of the show because I felt bad because I kept having to ask them to get up so that I could get out. Thank God I wasn't like in the middle of the fucking row having to go past like 8-9 people. I would have maybe went for less smokes. It was just this kid and his dad's like almost every single commercial break. And again, because it's hot, right? Like there's a guy sitting next to me. He's kind of pressed up on me. It's like I'm a little pressed up on buddy next to me. It's like whatever though. Every time it's almost like church in a hilarious sense where it's like every time the wrestlers come out, stand up, sit down, kneel, pray for your guy to win, stand up, kneel. It's like this whole seminar fucking going on in there. It's hilarious. So yeah, I was like chatting it up with all just the random wrestling fans around me. Very cool vibe. The only thing was, and this was like the most hilarious thing, was like when the teacher tries to put a rule in place that fucking nobody listens to. WWE officials at one point they were like going around asking people not to film and take videos with their phones. Literally nobody fucking listened. Like literally everybody was just fucking like using their phones and taking videos and whatever. Hey, what's up, Max Street? Gonna hit a rip soon. Hell yeah. Fucking 420. We're at 412. We're gonna be there pretty soon, actually. And I got a little special something on the side here for 420 especially. Right now, we're just still making our way through Kiefer Sutherland over here. Yeah, I rolled this literally right before jumping on. This is half Bruce Banner, some shit that I ordered from the weed store here in Quebec. Also got this fucking this Northern Lights here. Yeah, this is some Bruce Banner and just a bunch of Keef that I put into it as well. So yeah, obviously fantastic live experience. But then, you know, after the show, you know, you start seeing all the reviews online, a lot of these other wrestling creators and whatever, right? And again, you start seeing like the perspective of people that are watching on TV versus like, hey, I was actually there and no, this didn't happen, or no, the crowd wasn't actually reacting that way. And then even I, like the next day, watched back the broadcast on Hulu, which is something I know I don't actually usually. I'm old. I go to bed early, guys. I go to bed by the time Raw airs. I watch that shit the next morning while I'm working on Hulu. But yeah, I'm watching back Raw because I was like, oh, I was there. Like I want to see almost like that other perspective through the camera. And again, it was trippy because it was like I had intimate knowledge of things that actually happened versus what was depicted on screen. Even like the Rhea Ripley stuff, there was like certain blow off moments that happened, like again, like during when they went to commercial, and then like when you see those like in the arena, it's like we're seeing those backstage segments as like video packages on the Jumbotron. So, you know, again, the perspective of like even small things. And when I say small things, of like, you don't think about like how small the ring is. Like the ring looks huge on TV, I feel like. And then like when I was in person, I was like, actually, like, you know, that doesn't look that big. I feel like I could stand in there and like I'd be taller than I always had this idea somehow that I was shorter than the ropes, even though it's like I'm the same size as like a fucking Johnny Gargano or whatever. But yeah, and then like you see the dudes in life though. Otis, Ivar, and Sheamus, like just fucking those are big beefy men. Like you see it in real life. Like those guys are fucking huge. And then, like I said, the perspective of what you see on TV versus what you see in real life, old Uncle Dave Meltzer. I saw him talking about how the R-Truth and Miz segment fell flat. That was like a thing that was on the IWC, like the internet for fucking wrestling community. It was Uncle Dave and like a bunch of other creators being like, oh, this wasn't funny. And the crowd was eating that shit up. And again, I don't mean me personally. That kind of shtick isn't really my type of humor. But for one thing, I can guarantee you that, Dave Meltzer probably doesn't understand like the nuanced subculture that is Quebec entertainment and humor. Like literally, there is a whole branch of Quebec entertainment that the rest of the world is basically unaware of. I don't think you guys realize they have their own version of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I am not shitting you. It is a Brooklyn Nine-Nine shot with French actors. That exists. So when I tell you it's a fucking bizarro world over here, like, and so like the R-Truth stuff, tons of people, the fucking dad and kid next to me laughing their asses off. Bunch of the fucking dudes on this side of me laughing their asses. The people behind me laughing their asses off. I didn't think it was like, so there were a couple moments that I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. But like overall, I get how, and again, it's like watching it back as a TV viewer. I didn't think it was like the greatest segment ever either. But when you're in that live audience and you're surrounded by, 40 people laughing, it's hard to be like, oh, well, that sucked. You know what I mean? Like, okay, maybe it wasn't for you specifically, but that's like the biggest thing was it's not for you specifically. Like that's WWE in a nutshell, and if you want to be an AEW stan, I get it. But like WWE is not catering to any single individual. They're catering to the combination of the live audience and the television audience, and they're doing their best to meet both demands, but those demands can be very different. So it's like a lot, even like a perfect example is like a lot of the online hate I'm already seeing about Cody Rhodes' title reign of like, oh, it's boring. It's been fucking 2 weeks. They're like, oh, he's doing acceptance speeches. Yeah, you know who really appreciated Cody's acceptance speech and his dumb dad jokes and, all that shtick and Jey Uso coming out and everything, that, who really ate that shit up? The whole fucking audience. Because I was there. Even I enjoyed like seeing Cody Rhodes live, like even in that capacity of, okay, he's not wrestling on the show, but he's going to come out, see the live audience, cut a promo. I get if you're one of these diehards that watches the weekly television program every single week. I'm not really that way. And so, and again, a lot of casuals aren't that way. So when you're there live and you get to see Cody Rhodes come out and cut a promo and show off his new WWE championship and then invite his friend Jey Uso, come down to the ring, and then he has a match with Finn Balor. And then it's like you're rewarded because they do that fucking amazing shot. Now that Kevin Dunn is gone, thank God, they finally have some decent camera work where it's like they do that amazing shot where they follow Jey Uso right out of the building through the audience, and then they follow Sami Zayn back in. It's like, bro, that's fucking, now that's television. I don't give a shit who you are, what you say. That was an amazing shot. That was a great setup. That whole entrance, fucking vibes, being there live was even better than, what you saw on the broadcast. Because again, when they go to commercial, Sami Zayn didn't go to commercial. Sami Zayn's still running through the fucking audience, getting everybody razzed up. I shared a video on TikTok. He literally ran right by my section, like slapping hands with all the people. My hand was out. He did not get my hand, just missed. But I felt it was fine because the dad and the kid next to me who were on the end, like they did get that interaction. I was like, fuck yeah, for the, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're happy for other wrestling fans and just, seeing everyone psyched up. And yeah, like, again, I don't think that translate always. Obviously, like that match, Jey Uso, Finn Balor, if I was watching that on TV, feels a lot more like a throwaway. And it's funny because there was a part of me in my heart that maybe is a little bit still jaded as a wrestling fan, where I swear to you guys, I was like, I should go for a smoke. And again, a smoke. Oh shit, it's 4:20. All right, we're gonna fucking cut. Shit, cut it off right there. Bulls up. This is some nice Northern Lights mixed with some blueberry. This shit's called Lagoon. I'm a fucking goon. Ooh, happy 420, y'all. I won't make you listen to me cough, though. Give me 1 sec. So yeah, in that moment, I'm like thinking to myself, I should go for a smoke break. Like, it's just a regular, like, it's Jay and Finn. It's not the end of the world if I miss it, but I'm like, but I'm here live. This is what I'm here for. I also don't want to be like I'm walking out like in the middle of the match. That looks like, in my mind, I was like, this being disrespectful. Also, it's like if I had timed it where I'd gone, there was like a short commercial break right after Jay's entrance before the match actually started, where that's where I should have gone. And then, by the time but I don't know if that would have timed up the same way. And then I would have been coming back again in the middle of the match. I know it's not like they can see me or anything, but in my mind, I know I'm being rude, disrespectful. It's like I paid my ticket. I can do whatever I want. But at the same time, it's like I'm there to see the show. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't go for a smoke. And I immediately fucking regretted it because I watched Jey Uso run up the fucking stairs. Literally, so like where I had been going up the stairs to go for smoke breaks, he went up the stairs next to them. And they both come out. It's a round circle. They both come out like literally like within fucking 10 feet of each other. So if I'd been going up those stairs or like hanging out in that area at the same time as him going, I would have literally been able to follow him out and see fucking Sammy come in for like that whole shot. And I didn't. So sometimes you got to follow your heart, follow your gut. But again, at that time, it's like, this is my first show. I didn't want to miss the match. So it was like, it is what it is. But I got to be like right again in the thick of the audience for Sami Zayn's entrance. It was fucking amazing. Being there live was, an experience I'll never forget. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I could literally put it up to like, obviously it's like I got married. I had my daughter, hanging out with my family. It's like, and then fucking Raw, WWE Raw. It's like one of the best live events that I've ever attended in my entire life. So, I don't really have negative things to say. But, as far as like the live product, I think I'm going to try really, really hard to just be less jaded going forward, especially for, even AEW. Like, I'll talk about it a little bit later on my notes of like, I might not like everything they're doing, but the audience seemed pretty into it. And that's something that I'm going to try and really consider more going forward of like, before even the TV product, you got to kind of live up to the however many fans are in that building to kind of see you perform. So, and not every single thing that you do necessarily is going to translate to a TV product. I think sometimes the TV audience can be almost too harsh and critical, and not considerate enough of the fact that this is like a live product for a live audience. and shit happens, and they're trying shit and throwing shit at the wall. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's my perspective that I really came out with, after being there really live. But I will say it does feel like we're in a bit of a holding pattern now. But I like that they're fast tracking the draft for WWE. Obviously, it's going to be starting next week on Friday. So that should get some shit rolling in terms of like the headlines and the news stories and all that good shit. And, get some fresh changes and matchups. Obviously, SmackDown last night established, some shit for the PLE. I still call it pay-per-view. Fucking, I think it's Backlash coming up. So AJ Styles, as much as I love LA Knight, that was to me the right decision. I like the dynamic of face versus face, but I really wanted to see AJ Styles in that role. And I think obviously that's a good first win for Cody to defend his title against AJ Styles as a legitimate contender. So I love that. Street Profits, I love that they're number one contenders. My only thing is it feels like they're definitely eating a loss against Waller in Theory because they're not dropping those titles that soon. But hopefully, like, they'll get the rematch through to the next pay-per-view and then they'll get the titles there because they really do want to see a solid run from the Street Profits as tag team champions. And then, the development of the Bloodline story. I'm officially on record of, like, for me, this story has jumped the shark a little bit. I get the angle that they're trying to go with. I'm not into the idea of like the Bloodline Civil War thing. The idea of like Roman coming back and uniting the Usos to take on Solo and Tama Tonga and whatever else jabroni that they add to this. Like, unless you can somehow get The Rock on Solo's side, then I could maybe see like, okay, well, that changes things a little bit. That's a little bit more gravitas and perhaps leads to Roman versus The Rock at WrestleMania. But there's like, there's already rumors that they're potentially leading to The Rock versus Cody next year. So everything feels like it's up in the air. I say jump the shark. That's how I feel personally. I think they can still get it back. Obviously, I don't even think it would necessarily take that much. Obviously, when Roman Reigns comes back, depending how they handle that, and I know a lot. And again, this is the thing of like, I'm not going to shit on it because I'm sure there will be thousands among thousands of fans that will love it. For me personally, I'm struggling to kind of see, I'm a writer and a storyteller by nature. And so sometimes I will struggle to see the actual story that they're trying to go with. But again, coming out of a live show, like I feel like I need to be so much more forgiving and patient, frankly, with the product, especially the WWE product, and just how grandiose it is and, the level that it operates on. But it's enough about WWE. Let's actually talk about AEW because I watched the AEW Dynamite, but the last Dynamite before AEW Dynasty. I am tremendously excited for AEW Dynasty. There are some banger fucking matches. Obviously, Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson. I'm there for that. Also, Pac versus Okada. I'm super fucking excited about that. Even though it's like Young Bucks versus FTR4 or whatever it is, the fact that it's a ladder match changes things. Obviously, I think that's going to be a banger of a match. Samoa Joe versus Swerve. I think obviously they are having great matches is not AEW's problem. And again, I came out of watching this episode in particular of AEW Dynamite genuinely confused about the direction of the product. So, the way that they set things up, the way that they are doing their stories right now does feel like a muddled, watered down version of the kind of WWE shenanigans that we saw in like the late stage Vince McMahon era. And if you don't agree with me, I mean, like, I'm watching this shit cold. I want to like this program. And yet, it's like the first thing that happens is, okay, Moxley comes out and cuts a promo. Cool. Mercedes Moné, doing her shit. They have they're having this like weird intergender tag match where it's like Brody King and Julia Hart versus Adam Copeland, and it's supposed to be Willow Nightingale. And I don't know why Cope is suddenly feuding with House of Black. That's like a thing now, I guess, that I missed. But like Willow Nightingale just doesn't show up. I'm supposing because she got attacked, and then she does show up, and then all of a sudden it's like, she gets taken out again by Julia Hart, and then all of a sudden we're right back into a Samoa Joe promo. And I'm like, when did AEW start doing like 25, 30 minutes of television with only one match? Like, I thought that was WWE's thing, right? And the next thing is like the video package, for FTR and the Young Bucks match gets cut off by the Young Bucks. And I don't know if this is supposed to be like a comedy routine. And again, it's like, I would have to be there in the live audience to kind of get the vibe of how they reacted to everything. But, when you talk about stuff that doesn't always translate to TV, this was a segment where I was like, I'm confused in multiple levels. It's like, first of all, the whole angle made Tony Khan look like a fucking cuck because he's got the Young Bucks basically just telling him what to do. He looks like rather than the owner of the show, Tony Khan straight up looked like a video producer in this segment where like the Young Bucks are just like, hey, fucking cut that footage, play this, do this. I'm like, the fuck is this? And then even more confusing is just like, again, the idea of like, that's supposed to be their shtick. And that's why I'm supposed to hate them is because like they made their own show. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, that's fine. But like, again, it's like, I don't know if they're trying to be meta or like fourth wall. I don't know if this is something that in their minds they think is like extremely clever or like avant-garde, and like, they're like, oh, there's haters and they just don't get it. It's like, and I'm not even necessarily sure like where it's coming from. Is like, is this really, direction coming from Tony Khan, or, is this kind of a collective of Khan and the Bucks? Again, generally just confused. And then the next thing I know is we get the Young Bucks and Okada versus, and again, I love all of these wrestlers separately. I have no idea why. Well, Pac and Penta, I know why they're together, but it's like, why is Daniel Garcia like the third guy in every fucking random 6-man tag match these days? It was a great match. I mean, I can't fault them for that. Like, everyone's doing these awesome spots. Fucking, I love Pac and Penta. Like, I get where it's like, to a certain degree, it's like you don't need necessarily story. I know they were in the fucking Bermuda Triangle of Death or Triangle of Death, whatever the fuck they're There's too many fucking factions in AEW, guys. I cannot keep track of all these factions. All right, but I know they were partners and they do fucking great work. I'll watch them do anything, but it's like, just, I don't know. I want more. I just want a little bit more. But after that, you get the hook segment with fucking Chris Jericho. And this was, I would be pretty surprised if like the live audience was generally into this as well. Like, I felt like this just made everybody look bad. Chris Jericho just, looks like, late stage Chris Jericho. Hook's doing this thing where he's like trying so hard to look cool at this point that me personally, like, I'm like, this just looks like a kid. Like, I know he's actually like good in the ring and everything. I get it. This whole shtick and personality of him like being this like tough guy that like doesn't, quiet, silent but deadly. The fucking, I do not buy into it whatsoever. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, you are compared to some of the fucking dudes on this roster, you straight up look like a kid, like a baby face kid. And yeah, there's no depth to the character is the problem. Even like you look at like the actual promo that he cut, it's like Chris Jericho pushed his dad basically, like pushed his dad down, and he was like, "Get out of my ring! You get out of my I'll have a match with you anytime, any place, anywhere." I'm like, what the fuck is Jesus Christ? Like, this kid needs a manager like nobody's fucking business. Like, he needs something. I'm over this whole, shtick with Hook. And it's like, now it's just going to be this fucking terrible feud with Chris Jericho that's going to drag on for way too long. And they're going to have some kind of match at whatever, not the Dynasty, obviously, it's too close, but like whatever the next pay-per-view is what this is supposedly building up to is Hook versus Chris Jericho. And it's like, who cares? Honestly, legitimately out there, tell me, who cares about Chris Jericho versus Hook? And then again, another promo, fucking Bang Bang Lame Gang versus fucking Acclaimed promo, and fucking Billy Gunn telling me that he beats his kids, and I'm like, okay, but you're supposed to be the baby face. Cool story. And then Orange Cassidy versus Shane Taylor. I thought at least like, again, if you're not going to give me the long-term storytelling, I don't mind when they have these type of matches where they'll give you the short-term storytelling within that match of like, Orange Cassidy was recently betrayed by, his buddy, and, the other guy's injured and the other guy's in a different company right now. And so he doesn't have his faction. And, Shane Taylor's got his faction with him. And so obviously it's a huge disadvantage for Orange Cassidy. It's like, okay, perfect. You're telling that story. And then even like the next one of like, Will Ospreay and Claudio Castagnoli. Like, again, I get that you do not really need much story. These guys had a fucking, I don't give a shit about, this is the thing of like, ratings drive me nuts. That was a 5-star match. I literally don't care what anybody says. Like, when I watched that match, that was a fucking banger. Claudio versus Ospreay, bro. I mean, they already were talking about Konosuke Takeshita versus Ospreay for match of the year. Nah. I think this is already better. I would call this match of the year so far, because like I bet you Danielson versus Ospreay at Dynasty will be a match of the year candidate. We'll have several. It's so early in the year. It's funny to me that you're like, bro, it's April. there's like fucking 8 months left. Like, we got a long year left to go before we start claiming match of the year here. All right. But I thought it was a banger of a match. Again, I get that it's like he's supposed to face Danielson and Claudio. Again, fucking factions. My God, with the factions, AEW. Blackpool Combat Club is cool. That I get that you like have like, a bunch of top guys like Danielson, Claudio, and Mox together. Like, I like that idea, but the problem is like, again, it's watered down by the fact that every motherfucker, it feels like seriously like 80% of the AEW roster is in a faction of some sort or another. It's like, how many wrestlers actually just straight up like stand on their own, right? And it's like, okay, well, you've got like Hangman, who was in a faction. Like, honestly, like the only one I could think of right off the top of my head that hasn't been in a faction that I know of in AEW is Samoa Joe. So, and then speaking of Samoa Joe, it's like you get, that's how they close the show is Swerve comes out, cuts a promo, Joe comes out, beats him up some, and then gives him a muscle buster. And to me, that's basically go home math saying 100% that Samoa Joe is giving up that title, and we're gonna have Swerve Strickland as the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion come Dynasty. So I'm pretty excited for that. I'm not gonna belabor the point. It's 4:20. Let's just wrap this up. Bong tokes up. Bang, bang, scissor gang. Oh, yeah. Make sure you like and subscribe. Tomorrow, like I said, shout out to Nick Opalewski. I'll be dropping my review of Superstar tape of the proper name and everything on the video tomorrow. Should be about a 10 to 15 minute segment. And next week, we go back to pre-tape shows. So this is the last live show for a little while. Maybe come SummerSlam time, or if there's something really big before then, I might have another live show. But until then, help with the algorithm bullshit, and I will catch all of you guys on the flip side. Happy 420, everybody.
My positive contact results in affirmative impact. Never vulgarize on raps. I'm never primitive, but cannibalistic, vicious characteristics, hereditary potency, episodic genes, yo. Aim at the HMCs at extraordinary speed. Some of me is light, some of them razor blades and grease in your bed.